Playground!
Hooray!
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Hey, y'all, what's up? Welcome back to the program. I'm Deron Harris, and this is my podcast, y'all. How you feel? Welcome. All right, so check it out. A couple weeks ago, real good friend of mine, man, one of my best friends in the world. We grew up together. Called me a racist. Called me a separatist. He listened to my podcast about segregation and told me that it was the most racist thing that he had ever heard. Now, let me kind of set this up for you. Every time me and this person, we talk about race, there is always an argument. There's always a blow up. There's always some sort of gnashing of teeth, some angst, some harsh feelings, maybe even some harsh words from time to time. And he called me a racist, told me I needed to look in the mirror on the occasions on some things, and so I did. I decided that I was going to look in the mirror, and that is what I'm talking about today. Am I being racist? Am I being racist? I mean, let me I'll give you a couple things. We had an argument about Tyler Perry and Oprah wanting to start an affluent black community. He thought because I thought that was a good idea, that I was a separatist because I think that we need our own hospitals and to buy from black-owned businesses, prioritize buying from black-owned businesses, et cetera, that I am a separatist, and therefore that was being racist. So, again, that's what I'm talking about on today's program. But first, before I get started, I always want to do a solid mental health check and make sure that everybody or anybody out there who is listening, who suffers from who is suffering or feels themselves slipping away, I just want to encourage you and let you know that there are people out there that are willing to talk to you and help you get through whatever hardship that you might be going through. I'm one of those people. You can DM me. And if you up there on the ledge, I ain't got no problem sitting up there with you, man, and trying to talk you down, because I've been up there myself, and it is not a good place, and I don't want anybody to have to feel that way. So I want to encourage people, if you believe it or you think it, or or if there's a loved one in your life that you think is suffering in this way, please, don't sit there in silence. Make it a priority to go out and get some help, okay? So with that being said, let's jump into it. So am I racist? Well, first, I really wanted to break it down too. I wanted to break it down all the way back to the essence of the, am I a racist? Do I have those racial, am I that person? And I had to, like I said, I wanted to get back to the basics. So I went to the dictionary and looked up racist. And for anybody who is unclear about what a racist is, or what racism is, or what is racist, let's go ahead and get the dictionary definition out here and see. So first off, racist, adjective, characterized by showing prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. As used in a sentence, we are investigating complaints about racist abuse. Then also, racist, noun, plural noun. Racist, 1, a person who is prejudiced against or antagonistic towards people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is, again, a minority or marginalized. Simply put, a racist is a person who believes that one race is better than another solely based on the color of their skin. Racists discriminate against other races. If someone believes one race is inherently superior, that person is racist. Individuals can be racist, but businesses can also be racist. Laws can be racist. And most importantly, that I think that this is the problem we're having here in this country now. The government can be racist, or governments, plural, not just here in our, other places too. There's racism other places. So now that we have the definition of what a racist is, let's break this apart, okay? My friend, called me a racist a couple of times, actually, like a few times, like I said. I mean, the first time he kind of referred or hinted at it, it was kind of a shock to me, but the thing about it is every time, he gets bent out of shape every time I call out things that white people have done to black people, and he believes that can be or feels like racism, feels like I'm being racist towards his people for the fact that I'm calling out facts, truth, because I don't say anything that's not truthful. I simply just place the blame where it lies. That's all I do. Now, again, like I was saying earlier, we had a discussion about an article that I read about Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. They were starting this black neighborhood, and I thought it was a good idea. And he told me, again, because I supported this idea or thought it was a good idea, that I was, quote unquote, a separatist. And therefore, I was being racist. That was a racist. He said that I was being racist again because I told him that my wife and I have chosen to support black and Latin-owned business first of all, or prioritize shopping at black and Latin-owned businesses. And I tried to explain to him why it was necessary for us to do so. He called that racist and again called me a separatist. Now, my wife is Latin, so of course we want to support our communities, because our communities are marginalized. Our communities are, we don't reap the benefits that the white communities benefit. So in that, we want to, especially in the wake of what's going on politically in the country, yes, absolutely, motherfucking right. We want to support our groups of people. So then my podcast, I did a podcast a couple weeks ago about segregation being back. Trump reinstating segregation in I think it was like federal spaces or something of that nature. So segregation is back. And he said he listened to my podcast, and then after he listened to my podcast, he actually texted me and said, I listened to your podcast. I said, oh yeah, what did you think? He said it was the most racist thing that he had ever heard in his entire life. And that was after I broke down the reinstatement of segregation. Now, I'm a 54-year-old black man, and I'm married to a Latina from Puerto Rico whose age will remain anonymous. Even though she had a birthday a few days ago. Happy birthday, babe. Love you. Now, like I said, as recent political and executive orders have purposely dismantled protections for blacks and Latins in this country, the powers that be, and this is what I have explained to him, and really kind of we turned in on it ourselves, the powers that be have forced us. They have forced our hands to turn in on our own communities, and quite honestly, it feels good. It feels good to have some sort of empowerment in our communities. It really does. You start seeing people making a little bit of money, and people being more friendly towards each other. As opposed to this whole thing that we've formed against each other. Like, black people got to screw face each other, even all the way down to like families. We're just against each other. What us shopping with each other does is that puts us out in our community, and that helps us to interact with the people in our neighborhood. Like they said on Sesame Street, who are the people in your neighborhood? They're the people that you meet when you're walking down the street, and that's in your neighborhood. So, well, I want to be fair, though. I want to be fair to my buddy, okay? Now, his argument is this, that everybody should support all business, okay? You should support any business. Every business. If I have a business, you should support my business. And I should shop at, and I shouldn't shop at a business solely because they're black owned. And he went on to say, because I chose that to support a black and minority-owned business, I went and bought some deodorant from a black-owned company, and I was proud of that. And I told him that I actively sought out to give business to a black-owned business. Now, he said that I was unfairly excluding businesses owned by white people, and again, he thought that was racist. Now, I don't exclude businesses from white people because I don't know any black people who make a Jeep. I own a Jeep. I got an iPhone. I got a Nikon camera. I got plenty of shit here that was made by white people. But you know what I don't have? A lot of shit here made by black people. You know, and that's been by design. But that's something that I definitely want to change in my household, because there's no reason for me not to shop with my people and for my wife not to shop with hers. Now, I am definitely, and I'm making a conscious effort to support those businesses first, because historically we haven't. So now those businesses are first up on my radar. Okay? Those are first up with me. Now, if they don't have the things that I'm looking for, then of course I'll go to whatever business does have it. But first and foremost, I'm going to look and see if there's a young black entrepreneur, a young Latina, or somebody who's making these products. I make soap. You know what I'm saying? I make soap. I used to sell my soap. And my wife is Latina. We are a black and Latin-owned business. And we've had other black and Latin people come and give us business. But we've also had white people come and give us business. And we're thankful for all the business. Absolutely. We're thankful for all the people. Just as I'm sure all the rest of these companies are. You know, but the companies that aren't thankful for the business are the companies that have already established their windfall on our backs and continue to profit from us. They make substandard products. They put chemicals in the products that they do sell us. You know, and it's ridiculous. Even the black-owned, the black hair care products, the majority of black hair care products, or it used to be, mainstream black hair care products, weren't even owned by black people. They were owned by white people. But you'd see things like formaldehyde showing up in some of the ingredient lists in some of the products. Why would you put formaldehyde in some shit I'm putting in my hair? What the fuck is that for? You see what I'm saying? So now, you know, having somebody who actually makes these products, somebody who understands my culture, somebody who doesn't have those hangups, isn't trying to hold me down, isn't trying to capitalize and oppress me, I can give that person the business and help them grow while doing something positive for me and my people. I'm going to take a quick fast break, and when I come back, we're going to get to the rest of this. I'm Deron Harris. This is my podcast. Be right back.
The Podcast Playground. Hooray!
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm back. Today I'm talking about, am I a fucking racist? Am I? Am I really? Or are you just a little fragile? That's what I'm talking about. I had a friend, like I said, I had a friend call me a racist. So to get back into it, he didn't really understand why it was necessary for my wife and I to support our respective communities in the face of today's current administration. He believes that as long if we should just push through, and we should just not acknowledge this racial part. This racial part is what's fucking everything up, and that's the fact that I'm leaning into wanting to support these businesses, and that makes me that's making me that's making me separate. That's untrue. That is a fabrication. That is not true. What it is doing, though, it is making me love my people. It is making me have a newfound respect and a renaissance for black beauty, black strength, black excellence, black everything. It just makes me super proud to be black. You know what I'm saying? So he believed that black people empowering themselves and choosing to live among themselves seems like segregation and discrimination against white people. And again, called me a separatist. But that, he thinks that us doing these things without them and that's what it is. Us doing these things without him or without white people becomes threatening. I told him this, though. I said, nobody seems to mind when black people are living together as long as we do them poorly, as long as we do them bad, as long as we out here in the streets strung out on drugs or selling drugs, fucking hoeing or pimping, or, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is, we gotta be living in order for people to identify with, oh, I can feel your struggle and all that other stuff. But when it comes to us, doing well, everybody has a problem with black progress, with black people progressing. Why does that have to be recognized? Why do we have to name that? Why do we have to put a label and say, hey, why does it have to be that? It's always why. And, I explained to him that this has absolutely nothing to do with white people and everything to do with the minority communities, with black and brown communities empowering themselves, because historically, and this is just the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts the worst, historically, the white community has done nothing but oppress black and brown communities. Keep us out of shit. Try to exploit us. Capitalize off of us. And still spit on us. Now, anytime we talk about shit like this, he feels threatened by black people receiving accolades or being named for some of their accomplishments. He believes this also. He believes because his family struggled, his grandparents, and they were good people. Don't get me wrong. His mother was great. I loved it like she was my mother. And because his family struggled and they had struggles, that his struggles as a white man in today's society and age are equal to the struggles of me and other black people in this country. And that is just not true. He believes that the exclusion of white people from black spaces is wrong, even though white people have historically excluded black people from their spaces. And what that does is that fuels the need for black people to create spaces of our own, where we feel comfortable, where we are accepted, where we are not looked down upon. He didn't understand why the racial identity of the soldiers in the Arlington National Cemetery was so important. He didn't understand that. And why that should be celebrated. His belief that, if a black man and a white man both were out there fighting and they both died, then why should one be recognized over the other? And the truth is they're not being recognized over the other. But this black man is being recognized for the specific reason is his accomplishments were never meant to be. They were never meant to be here. This was never meant to be a representation of who America was. So, so now what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to firmly explain why this whole logic that my friend has is preposterous. Let's start there. And it's based in selfish and a narcissistic perspective. Okay? And yeah, it's going to be that. So here we go. And I'm going to say this also. If you have a friend, and this is to everybody out there, if you have a friend or family member, who is like this, you're probably going to want to stick around for this podcast, or download it and listen to it later. If this is you and you feel like this, you might want to stick around for this podcast. And if you have anything to say afterward, I encourage anyone to leave a comment, or go to DaronHarris.com and do your best to try and get at me. I mean, people are usually really good at getting my messages to me. If you have any questions about it, we can sit down and we can chop it up about it all day long. I got miles for days on this subject right here. So I'm going to explain again one more time, and hopefully I can do it better. If not, I'm just going to have to get my dad to explain it. So, because maybe I'm not doing a good enough job. I'm going to explain why it is necessary for blacks and Latins. I'm gonna throw in this episode. I'm going to throw the Latin folks into this, because my wife is Latin and she feels a lot of what's going on today as there is mounting hate against her people. And that's I could get down with that. I can understand why she's so, like I said, I'm gonna explain this, why it's necessary for blacks and Latins to construct their own affluent narratives instead of trying to integrate into communities that don't want or appreciate them or their contributions. I'm doing that today. So I'm gonna explain why it is hurtful and racist to erase the identities and the accomplishments of the black and Latin soldiers and the women in the Arlington National Cemetery, and which he agreed with him. People just get rid of why does the race matter so much? It matters, and I'm gonna explain to you why. And I'm going to also give you some reasons why it is important for black and Latins to support black and Latin-owned companies first, over companies owned and ran by companies that really don't give a fuck about us. So and I'm also going to explain why a lot of this logic, the logic that my friend or people who have this similar ideology, why this logic is based in selfishness, is based in racism, whether people they want to believe it or not. And it's okay, because some people really don't know or understand, and that's why I broke down the definition of racism in the beginning. But I'm going to break down why this is based in selfishness, racism, fear, jealousy, and anger at the same time. I'm going to take another break, and I'll be right back.
The podcast playground. Hooray!
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Today I'm breaking down, again, am I a racist? And what racism is, and what's happening? Like I said, I was called a racist by my friend, and I was told to look in the mirror, and I'm breaking it apart. So now I'm at the point in the podcast where I'm really gonna break down why my friend's logic and people who share a similar logic, why this logic is absolutely preposterous and extremely selfish. Okay, and it may be a little hard to listen to if this is you, but understand that this is coming from a place of love, and it's also coming from a place of facts, and it's also coming from a place of I'm at a point now where I don't need anyone to understand my motivation and why I do the things that I do. I don't need that. I don't fucking need it. But at the same time, I'm going to make you understand how you feel. While feeling that you are valid in the way that you feel, but why you feel is a little off kilter. And maybe it's just my opinion, but man, somehow I really don't think so. So number one is there is a false equivalency narrative. Now, comparing struggles of white people and black people, like comparing those struggles in American history, is super inaccurate. if you compare the white struggles to the black struggle in America, it's not even close. White people have never been subjected to systemic oppression, forced segregation, redlining, mass incarceration, or economic sabotage at the level that black and Latin communities have. Now, to be fair, their struggles, while they are valid in personal cases, not because I'm not saying white people don't struggle. I'm not saying that. Their struggles are not institutional. You get what I'm saying? It's not embedded into this system. Now, also, there is selective outrage. My friend has selective outrage. I'm just going to call it out. Because he's got no problem with white people exclusively supporting white-owned businesses, even though I'm just going to go ahead and call it out because that's what happens. That's what it is every day. These are white people going out and supporting white-owned businesses every day without blinking, without thinking, right? No problem with that. But there is outrage, when black people and Latin people prioritize our own people to shop with. That right there, my friends, is hypocritical. That is hypocrisy in action. Okay? Now, some people, they have, they fear of losing dominance. Some of these people, they feel they don't want to lose their position. White people, for centuries have spent centuries controlling wealth, media, politics, all the industries, and any shift in economic power towards like black and Latin communities makes people, like a lot of white folks feel like threatened. They feel threatened because they're accustomed to their position at the top, and they don't know. Well, is it just going to be bad for us if we're not? Because because of the way that they have treated the people beneath them. They are afraid to be beneath anybody, and that we've always said we don't give a fuck about that. We just want you to leave us the fuck alone and let us live and stop trying to tear our shit down when we come up on some shit. And that's really where we have always been. We're not out plotting to go and attack white people. That's not us. That's white people. White people are actively right now out in the fucking woods plotting to go out and attack black and Latin people. The fucking truth. But because I've called this out, I'll get a side eye or some sort of blowback. And that right there is just people being afraid to confront the truth of what goes on in this country. And it makes people like my friend fearful because it threatens their accustomed position at the top. Now, again, not again, but another instance is historical amnesia. Okay? The exclusion of black people from white spaces has always been intentional. Okay? Just let's get it out there in the open. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not call it, let's call it what the fuck it is. It's always been that. It's been intentional. From country clubs to banks and housing developments, black people were systematic. We were locked out. We're just locked out of all that shit. Systematically and systemically. Locked out. And now we create our own shit and suddenly, segregation. You want to segregate? That shit is fucking laughable. Now I'm a separatist? That shit is laughable. When we go and do what we're being forced to do. And now there's another issue that people like my friend or anybody who feels, who identifies with this ideology, the lie of inclusivity. Okay? White people, just so we know. Now, and listen to this very carefully. Okay? And I want my friend to listen to this, and I want anybody else who feels like, white people built their power by being exclusive, not inclusive. Okay? Let's say that again. White people built their power by being exclusive, not inclusive. Let that sink in for a second. Now, if exclusivity is only a problem when black people do it, okay? Then the issue isn't exclusion. It's who's doing it. Do you follow what I'm saying? Are you picking up what the fuck I'm putting down? Because nobody, because it absolutely 100% happens. Okay? And then there is this denial of economic warfare. The government has historically destroyed thriving black and Latin communities. The government. Okay? White communities have benefited from these attacks. So, really, they can't now cry unfairness when we fight back by non-violently, by the way, by simply supporting our own people, like we're being forced to, like we are being turned away from shit. They're dismantling protections. They're even bringing back segregation in certain cases. Let that again sink in for a second. Segregation is coming back in certain places. I've never experienced segregation. Now, my father has. But not me. Not my friend. You know, and my father was on the shit end of the stick in the during segregation. You know what I'm saying? Being a black man in the South. You're already under the motherfucking mud here. Again, here's another one. Erasing black and Latin accomplishments. When Arlington National Cemetery removes black and Latin soldiers, let me just make this clear. It is a direct attempt to try and whitewash history. It is nothing more than that. To try and whitewash the shit out of our history. This proves that this system does not value our contributions. If white folks truly believed in fairness, if you truly believed in things being fair, and I'm saying this to my friend, if you truly believed in things being fair, then you would fight to keep our names honored instead of stripping away who the fuck we are. Now, a lot of people that share this ideology, they have, now this is not necessarily my friend, but a lot of people who share this ideology, they have jealousy of our cultural resilience because black and Latin people thrive and we party motherfucking wepa out this bitch despite our oppression. Sometimes white people, even with all their advantages, still feel threatened by our strength, our innovation, and our influence. And that's why they try and undermine our success at like every turn. Look at what they did to Beyonce. Look at what they doing to Anthony Mackie at being Captain America on some NASCAR. Let the motherfucking racial slurs fly. They can't say nigga, so they say DEI. You know, that's their DEI. You know, it's the new nigga. You know, and it's just so fucking. It's so deliberate. It's so fucking deliberate. And it's so inbred in our country to be hateful. And instead of shattering that hate, a lot of people just double down into it. They double down and they shy away from tough conversations and they don't understand and they care not to understand because of the way they feel. They refuse to acknowledge white privilege, no matter how hard my friend's life might be. He will never be denied opportunities because of the color of his skin. Never. Never. He will never be profiled racially, denied a loan due to his race. Maybe his credit is a little fucked off, but not due to his race. And most importantly, he will never be at threat of having his fucking history erased My fucking history is being erased. And motherfuckers are sitting in my face going, oh, well, I think it's cool that, they take the black and Latins and the women off of the Arlington National Cemetery. They're all soldiers. That's bullshit. And ultimately, what it is the fear of black and Latin wealth. When black and Latin people can generate wealth, it definitely, most definitely disrupts the racial power structure. Supporting businesses mean we keep our dollars in our community longer. We make us self-sufficient, which terrifies people who benefit and have historically benefited from our economic dependence. That's why it's such a fucking problem. That is why it is such a problem. Now, I'm going to tell you now why why we have to go, why we got to go against the grain. This is why black and Latin people, we must support our own businesses, okay? It is no question, all right? And I'm going to double down on it, and if you want to call me a separatist, then call me a separatist. If you want to call me a racist, then you call me a racist. But I'm going to break down to you right now why black and Latin people must support our own businesses. Number one, economic power is political power. Money, not smiles and kumbayas and marches. Money dictates influence. Okay? Supporting black and Latin business means creating economic independence and political leverage. Number two, closing that racial wealth gap. We need to get on the motherfucking stick. White families have historically held more wealth due to systemic advantages. But it's crazy. Buying from black and Latin businesses redistributes that wealth into our communities, y'all. That's our way we fight back. Job creations for our people. If they don't want to give us a job, fuck them. Support our businesses. That will ensure jobs for our people, our community members, instead of feeding into corporations that don't give a fuck about us. Cultural preservation. We got to get on that too. Our businesses reflect our culture, our traditions, and our values. Supporting them keeps our heritage alive. Number five, reinvestments in our communities. When we spend in our own neighborhoods, that money circulates funding schools, communities, and local initiatives. It's fucking mind-blowing the fucking shit that it does. It breaks economic dependence. When we rely on white-owned corporations, we give them control over our lives. Owning and supporting our businesses, we break that cycle. Historic retaliation. White economic success was built on the backs of black and Latin exploitation. Prioritizing our businesses ourselves is a form of reparations. We're paying ourselves instead of giving our money back to them, the people who oppress us. We give it back to ourselves. We earned this money. We earned it. We worked for it. Challenge systemic racism. Major corporations have a history of exploiting, underpaying, and discriminating against black and Latin workers. Supporting our own people ensures fair treatment. Ownership leads to legacy building. Okay? Building and sustaining businesses means like passing down generational wealth to our kids, something that we have been denied historically. When we build these businesses and create this wealth within our community, we pass this down to our kids, and now our kids are on that come up too. They don't have to struggle. They don't have to have like food insecurity. They don't have to have any of that shit. When we put into ourselves, they have, historically put into themselves. Look at where they are. Look at their society. Look at their community. They desperately want to keep us out of it. So much so that they want to deport Hispanics and they want to incarcerate black people. Fuck that. We need to foster community pride. Okay, we need to care about. We need to be proud of the successes and the things and the struggles and the triumphs that we have had in our community. A successful black and Latin business inspires future generations to dream bigger than we have now. Controlling our own narratives. Now, I preach that shit a lot. White media controls our image, just so you know that. Okay? When we own businesses, our own businesses, we shape our stories. We shape how they are told. Because they're not telling them the way they're supposed to be told. You know what I mean? Again, when we do this, we provide culturally competent services, which is important. Black and Latin businesses cater to the unique needs of our people, unlike white-owned businesses that see us only as consumers, not as a community. We have to understand that self-sufficiency means protection. A self-sustaining community doesn't have to beg for acceptance or resources from outsiders. Building business networks, we can support each other. We can create systems of interconnected businesses and grow together. And lastly, it is because no one else will. It's because nobody else will. If we don't support our own people, then who the fuck is going to do it? Huh? Who's going to do it? White people prioritize their own businesses every day without apologies. Let me again say that. White people prioritize their own businesses every day without apology. We need to do the same. And that's as simple as it goes. So my friends' outrage and other people who share a lot of these ideologies is a textbook example of fragile privilege. He wants the benefits of white supremacy while pretending oppression doesn't exist. His argument is based on fear of losing power, jealousy of Black and Latin resilience, and anger that we are no longer begging for the inclusion in his world. We don't need y'all. And he's upset about that. And he's not only is it, he's upset that I have figured out and articulated that. We don't need them. It's cool to have you around. It's cool. You can be around. And I'm gonna be honest too. In some cases, it's really not cool to have you all around, because you've just shown that the only thing you want to do is hurt us or exploit us. We have to be very, very, very cautious about who we let come to the fucking cookout, for real. And that's what he doesn't understand, because, while he may feel that, we are friends, we friends, we grew up together. There's still some things that he can't identify simply because he's not a Black person. Some things he'll never have to go through. Now, he definitely wants to, chalk up and say he's been through his share of shit, and definitely so. But he ain't been through half of the shit that I have been through here in this country. And that's one thing that I had to tell him, I don't care if you get it anymore. See, at the end, this is not about exclusion. It is about survival, okay? It is about self-determination. It is about legacy building. It is about supporting our own businesses and letting you know that supporting our own businesses is not racism. It is economic self-defense, okay? Just so you know, because we're not going to get turned the fuck out like this motherfucker is trying to turn us out. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't understand that, if you can't understand that, and if you can't get down with that, if you can't internalize that, then really, man, really, am I your friend? Do you really value me like that? If you could sit there and tear apart these things that are so wonderful in our lives, so wonderful in the lives of my people, but you staunchly oppose these things. And come on now. Am I that important to you? Or is your political belief, the propaganda you've been listening to? You know what I mean? I don't understand. I don't understand. I mean, because media has been doing it to Black people I don't know, but he gets upset when I call out white people for their racism, their bigotry, their ignorance, and their hatred. Okay? And I continue to explain to him that it is not white people that I hate. And I keep saying this, all right? I keep saying this. It is not white people that I hate, rather the institution that has been indoctrinated into white America. Those are the things that I hate. That is what I hate. One of his main problems is he internalizes things that I say and takes them as a personal attack on him as a white man. Now, let me just go ahead and say this also. He is more conservatively aligned and cannot see. You just cannot see it, that conservative propaganda and the rhetoric they fucking spill all over the place, the shit they talk, is mainly to blame for the way he has been influenced for his current beliefs. A lot of shit he believes that he thinks he's so progressive in these certain areas. You're not, because of who you choose to believe. What you choose to believe. Now, that being said, I'm democratically aligned, or I have been. However, in recent months, I really have completely lost faith in this political party and its effectiveness to champion the political agenda of black people, because they are just fucking bullshit. And although having issues, though, with the Democratic Party, the divisive and racist policymaking of the Conservative Party has made it so that at least right now, I could never align with conservative values, any of those values that they have. Now, my friend's reaction, again, is a textbook example of white fragility. What that is the discomfort and defensiveness white people display when confronted with discussions about racism. His internalization of my critiques shows that he sees white supremacy as a personal identity rather than an institutional issue. Instead of listening, he makes it about himself, which is both narcissistic and unproductive. You follow me? Now, I know it might sound a little oochie, but it's the truth. And I'm going to break down the defensiveness now. Okay, number one. He equates the criticism of whiteness with hatred of white people. First and foremost, because I critique what they do, he thinks of that as hatred of white people. And I've made it clear that my issue is not with him or white people. It is with the system, not individuals. Now, but he still takes it that way. And I have to just say this. If he takes offense, it's because he subconsciously identifies with the system. Okay? Number two, he has been conditioned by propaganda, conservative propaganda. And he'll sit up here and scream to high heavens that no, it isn't, and no, and no. It's in every word you say. It's not a secret, bruh. You're not as stealthy as you think you are, man. It's all over everything. Everything you say, I could go straight to whatever conservative news forum and get that same information, that same ideology that you're talking about. What you don't see, bro, is the right-wing machine has masterfully, framed conversations about race as attacks on white people. If I bring up anything about race, I'm attacking you. I'm attacking white people. No. I'm not attacking you. I'm all I'm really doing is pointing out the obvious. I'm calling it what it is. And that's why he feels personally under siege instead of acknowledging historical facts. Now, one of the main problems is this, which I wish that he could do it. He refuses to separate himself and he doesn't want to do it. I don't know if he knows how or understands that he doesn't know how. I guess he refuses to separate himself from the oppressors. Okay? He doesn't separate himself from those people. Okay? He doesn't separate himself from that party. Do you follow what I'm saying? If you're not a racist, then why do you feel attacked when I criticize racism or racist people? The only reason to be offended is if he sees himself as part of this problem. That's the only way that you could ever be offended because, oh, wait. I'm part of that. But you're identifying with being part of that oppressive system. And lastly, he is more upset about being called out than racism itself. And that's a shame. Instead of confronting actual bigotry, his main concern is his own feelings. That is privilege in action. Believing that his comfort is more important than the truth. Now, why I'm gonna tell you now why is conservative alignment, being conservative, being in this conservative forum fuels his delusions. Now, and it's because of this, because conservatives frame white victimhood. The white victimhood as a crisis. They push the lie that white people are being oppressed by diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's why people who share this ideology, they react so strongly when black people talk about empowerment. They sell the illusion of equal struggles. That's what they do. These conservatives sell that to you. You are struggling just as much as they are. You going through just as hard a time as they are. The right wing promotes the false idea that white men face the same hardships as black people. This is absurd. This is absurd. Especially given America's history of systemic racism, God damn it. They use division as a tool. This is one of their tools to mask their numbers. Conservative propaganda thrives on making white people see black progress as a direct threat to them, rather than a step forward in equity. Simple as that. It is as simple as that. And I will stand right here on this fucking podium. And I will tell you in your face, my friend, that my position is righteous and it is logical. I am not hating white people. What I'm doing is I am holding the system accountable. This system that you identify with, I am holding this system accountable for its bullshit. And if you cannot separate yourself from this system, then my friend, this is your burden to bear. I can't carry this burden for you. That's between you and this system. Now, to be fair, my political stance is shifting, but definitely not fucking towards a Republican. And then the reason is because the Democratic Party has, like I said, failed black America in so many ways. They just have punked us and bitched us out so many ways. But conservatives openly embrace racism, and they purposely design policies to harm black and Latin communities. They do that shit on purpose. So for me, I think choosing self-determination over blind party loyalty is probably one of the smartest moves that you can do as a person. And I'm just going to say that anybody who shares the ideology that my friend has, or similar ideologies, what that does, my friend's outrage only proves that he's just afraid. He's afraid. It's fear of what were to happen if we did come up on this. Would they be left behind? Would he be left behind? That's the basis of it. Subconsciously, subliminally, like deep down in there, may not even feel like it or seem like it, but that's what it is. Now, I did say he listens to a lot of Republican Party bullshit, and I'm gonna kind of touch over a little bit of this bullshit just so I can set it up for everybody, so you can see where he may have formed these opinions. So here are 5 hypocrisies of the Republican Party. Claiming to support small government while controlling personal freedoms. Republicans advocate for limited government but push laws that regulate personal decisions, such as reproductive rights, LGBTQ plus rights, and even banning books. They want the government to be out of business, but inside people's bedroom and your bodies. Number 2, pretending to be pro-life while opposing social welfare. They fight for the rights of unborn babies, but oppose programs that help children and families, such as food assistance, universal health care, and child care support. Pro-life only applies until birth. Touting law and order while ignoring white crime. They demand strict policing and harsher sentencing for Black and Latin communities, but downplay crimes committed by white conservatives like January 6 or mass shootings or corporate fraud, stuff like that, because white people commit crimes too. Claiming to be patriots while undermining democracy. They wave the flag and call themselves patriots, but attempt to suppress votes, refuse to accept election results, and support leaders who are actively trying to overturn democracy. And number 5, preaching personal responsibility but blaming others for their problems. They tell Black and Latin people historically to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, while constantly blaming immigrants, liberals, or woke culture for their own economic failures. Okay? Now, just to be fair, I'm going to turn around and tell you 5 hypocrisies of the Democratic Party, just so you're not thinking that I'm leaning one way or the other, because they're assholes too. Now, the 5 hypocrisies of the Democratic Party are this: claiming to support Black people while ignoring systemic issues. They campaign hard for Black votes and fail to push meaningful policies to address wealth gaps, mass incarceration, and police reform once elected. Performance allyship doesn't replace action. Number 2, pushing for diversity while maintaining white power structures. The Democratic Party celebrates diversity but continues to have white leadership at the top. Most key political and financial decisions still benefit white liberals more than Black and Latin communities. Number 3, condemning Republican racism while supporting racist policies. They criticize Republican racism but uphold racist systems such as the 1994 crime bill. Aggressive policing and gentrification policies that displace Black and Latin residents. Number 4, touting economic equality while serving corporate interests. They talk about taxing the rich and supporting the working class, but accept millions from corporations and billionaires who influence their policies to maintain economic inequality, just like the fucking Republicans. And they promote immigration rights while quietly enforcing deportation. They claim to support immigration rights, but have upheld strict deportation policies, including under Obama and Biden, deporting thousands of immigrants while blaming Republicans for that system, for the system. Both parties are filled with fucking bullshit, all the way up to the fucking brim. And why we still follow them is a fucking mystery to me. And this is why neither truly serves Black and Latin communities. Learn to recognize these hypocrisies. Like, get to be comfortable with this bullshit. It is the key to building self-sufficient political and economic power. We have to internalize that. We got to get to that. Okay? We got to get to that. Now, I'm going to address this also. My friend constantly tells me that I should look in the mirror. That's what he says. And the way he will say it is, mirror much? He'll tell me that all the time. Mirror much? Well, when my friend tells me that, to look in the mirror, this is what he is actually doing. He is deflecting. He is shifting the conversation away from the systemic racism and inequality to make me question myself instead. It is a common conservative tactic when they don't have a real counter argument. So if you experience somebody like this, keep talking your shit. Keep preaching your truth. Don't let them take that away from you, because it is your truth. It is the truth. Now, I'm going to break down the deflection, okay? Projection. He is uncomfortable with my criticisms of racism. So instead of addressing them, he tries to make me the problem. There, again, is a false equivalent. He wants me to believe that fighting for Black and Latin empowerment is the same as white supremacy. That is manipulative and dishonest. Guilt and fragility. Number 3, he can't handle the reality of his privilege, so he lashes out by telling me to self-reflect instead of confronting his own bias. Number 4, avoidance. If he had a valid point, he'd make it. Instead, he tries to change the subject and gaslight me into silence. Now, to all that, I say this. I have looked in the mirror, and what I see is a Black man who refuses to accept the status quo around this bitch. I stand up for my people because, as history showed, no one is going to stand up for us. Instead of telling me to look in the mirror, why don't you look at history, look at policies, and look at motherfucking facts? And if you're uncomfortable with what you see, then my man, that is on you. You are using deflection to avoid accountability. It's that simple. It's that simple. You are using that to avoid having to acknowledge what white people have done to Black people. So, at the end of the day, it's this. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to get the fuck out of here. Of all things that can divide people, race, politics, and background, true friendship is supposed to be one of those few things that rises above all of that. A real friendship, especially between people of different races, should be built on honesty, understanding, and a willingness to see life through each other's eyes. It should never be a space where one person feels they have to censor their truth to keep the peace. I value our friendship because I believe in the power of human connection, to break all barriers, to challenge all perspectives, and to grow beyond the limits that society tries to put on us. But that only works when there is mutual respect, when we can have difficult conversations without defensiveness, and when we can acknowledge the realities that we may be uncomfortable but necessary to face. Racism, whether intentional or systemic, has no place in a true friendship because it creates imbalances, and one person gets to be comfortable while the other person gets to carry the weight of injustice, history, and lived experiences alone. A real friend wouldn't dismiss that pain or deflect from it. A real friend would listen, not take it personally. You feel me, man? And you would try and understand why these conversations, why they matter, why they have to happen, and why they matter so deeply. I do not call out racism because I want to create division. I call out racism because ignoring it allows it to persist. And if we can't have these conversations, if my truth it always is taken as an attack instead of a perspective that you respect, then my man, what kind of friendship do we really have? True friendship should make both of us better. Not in just how we treat each other, but in how we move through this world. You are my best friend, man. You are one of my best people that I've to ever come across my life. And I love you with all my heart. But this is something that, again, I don't care if you understand. Maybe it's not for you to understand. I want to thank my parents for giving me this mouthpiece. I want to thank my wife for being the absolute biggest fan that I have. I want to thank my friend and producer, Jesse Yandel, for producing a Lights Out podcast every fucking week, my dog. And I want to thank Gentry Thomas for giving me the platform to talk my shit on. And last but not least, I want to thank everybody out there listening to my podcast. And anybody who has listened and don't listen no more. And the people who will listen in the future. I really do. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you because without you, there would be no Deron Harris podcast. So, all right. I think that's going to do it. So ask yourself that question, man. Turn it around. Look around in the mirror. Look in the mirror, man. Are you this person? Can you make some changes? Because I did some self-reflecting. I turned this mirror around on myself and I stripped myself down. I stripped myself bare naked. And, yeah, I think I'm on the right side. So, until next week, y'all, have a good one. Peace.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.